right, we are live. Early in the morning here, but I am continuing to work through this, learning how to go live with some of these platforms. Thank you, StreamYard, streaming to Facebook, Voda's Facebook, I Fire My Boss podcast, Facebook, my LinkedIn, our YouTube channel, my YouTube channel, X, and Instagram. So pretty crazy how, again, if you're in content, StreamYard's awesome. It posts everything out to everyone. But yeah, going to jump right in. So we're going to talk about kind of what I was talking about yesterday, which is how to build an org chart, right? A lot of my content centers around building a business that runs without you being in the day to day. So the first thing that I want to talk about is I'm going to post this in the chat here. Be the least important person in your business. But if you want to start a business, right? A lot of people think like, oh, I want to start a business. I want to be, the owner, and it's like this, main character. You actually want to build a business where you're the least important person in the business. You want to build a business where everything is running, whether you're there or not, and whether you're involved or not, right? The whole point of owning a business is that you are, transferring from, you know, trading time for money to trading value for money, right? In other words, when you trade time for money, you're trading, I'm really good at X, you pay me Y to do the job, whether it takes, however many time, right? A doctor, a lawyer, they're trading time for money. At the end of the day, a lawyer has to go and do the work. And maybe they charge $1,000 an hour, but they still have to work. And unfortunately, I don't think they can only work 2 hours a day or something, right? They have to work, the time they work. A business owner trades value for money, right? The value they create, the problem they solve is then exchanged for money, whether that takes them, 5 minutes to do or 5 hours. It doesn't matter, right? When you're trading value for money, it doesn't matter. It's that you're trading value, right? And there's a direct correlation between how much money, you're going to make and the problem you're solving, right? Like the bigger the problem and the more you're solving that problem, the more money you're going to make. Now, money is very simple. It's the problem you're solving if no one else can solve it, right? How complex of a problem that no one else can solve. And if that problem is something people are actively looking to solve, right? There's a lot of things that are problems that people don't even know they have, right? That to me is not a great business. You want to be in a business where you're solving a problem that people are actively, an itch they're actively trying to scratch, right? So, for example, I'm in the restoration space. When people have water damage, in their living room or in their basement, they have to solve it. They must fix it, right? Now, we make great money because the value of solving that is very high. There's not a ton of competition or companies able to do it, but there are companies out there. The bigger the problem and the harder to solve, and the less companies that can solve it, the more you can charge, right? The more the value is there, especially if they're actively trying to solve. But let's get into what an org chart looks like that I think you can really use for really any for anything. Let's see here. I'm going to share this org chart. All right. So this is really what you want to think about when you're running a business. So we're going to start with when you're building an org chart in your company, you're building a team. You really want to think about these buckets. Don't think about people. Don't think about like, oh, I got Johnny. Johnny's a great head of sales. Forget about Johnny, right? The guy that works for you. Maybe you want to work for you. You need to think about your business from a much more, a different lens, really. You need to look at it just from filling these seats on the bus. And right people, right seats, they say, right? In other words, you have to have the right teammates on the bus that's driving to your destination, but you also need them to be in the right seat. Sometimes someone's a great fit for your company on the bus, but they're in the wrong seat, right? So you got to find the right people and put them in the right seats. And that bus has to be driving to the same direction. And so I always remind people, a great CEO and owner, the simplest thing is they have a clear ability to communicate in a concise way, a crystal clear vision, right? My job as a leader is to get people to see my vision so clearly, right? Like if we were rowing a boat, right? We're all rowing in the same direction to get to a goal, right? If you were rowing in a boat and you were, 10 people rowing in a boat, and even one person's rowing the wrong way, it's going to make a huge difference, right? And so what we look for is people are rowing in the right direction, and they can see the goal. Like if you were rowing in the ocean and you're just rowing and rowing for days and days, like you're going to start to lose hope. When you could start to see that island and salvation is there, you're going to row a lot faster, right? Because you know where we're going, right? So great leaders know where they're going. First of all, they decide where they're going to go. They see it clearly. They get the right people in the rowboat or the bus, right? Get them rowing the right direction toward a very clear, concise, vision or destination. So let's talk through this. Once you have that vision, really I should add that to the board here. So, right, you got, let's see. So we're going to say vision. All right. So first of all, you got to have the ability to put the vision together. So as the CEO and owner, you put together the vision. And then what you're going to do is you're going to need someone in all of these seats. The degree of your business running absentee, semi-absentee or not is completely proportionate to your ability to fill these particular buckets of the org chart. So head of marketing, right? What is marketing? Marketing and advertising and lead gen all centers around external communications to your potential customer, partners, and employees, right? Vendors, etc. Marketing has everything to do with your Facebook presence, your Instagram presence, your, in home services, you're going to have your Thumbtack marketing leads, your Angie's List, you're going to have your, your Google Guaranteed Local Service ads, your Google My Business leads. You're going to have your, like I said, Facebook, Google posts and ads. You're going to have remarketing that is, people go to your website that you reserve them advertisements about your business. We're going to be talking about billboards. We're going to be talking about, SEO, search engine optimization and pay-per-click. There's so many buckets that you need to, or so many, roles and lead generation efforts that you have to fulfill. And the head of marketing should be accountable to that. Because as I've said before, if two people are accountable to something, no one's accountable, right? You need to have one person that's accountable to marketing. You as the CEO, you're going to be accountable to everything and nothing at the same time. You're going to be accountable to everything and nothing at the same time. So what does that mean? As the CEO, your job as a leader is to oversee these 5 buckets. You're accountable to everything, right? If things go well or bad, it's still on you. But you're going to be accountable to nothing, meaning you're not going to be the one person that's running that. You're accountable to the whole thing with leaders accountable to each bucket. So the head of marketing needs to be someone that their job is to be the leader. Now, your job as an owner should be to find someone that knows marketing way better than you. Don't hire people that you know better than them. Like Steve Jobs said it best, we don't hire people to tell them what to do. We hire people for them to tell us what to do. So I would find someone that's really sharp. Now, if you're getting into a franchise, really the franchisor, that's the whole point. Franchises take the marketing, or at least good ones, take the marketing off of your plate. But so if you're getting into a franchise, hopefully a good one, you can kind of not worry about this bucket. But if not, you're going to need that marketing head. Number 2, you're going to have your head of sales. So again, if you want to be part of your business in the day-to-day, maybe you're bootstrapping it a bit more, or maybe you just want to be more involved, then you can obviously take one of these roles. A lot of times, business owners, people that get into business, so many are good at sales. If they're good at sales and you're getting into a business and that's your superpower, you might want to take this sales role. But I will be very clear about something. If you don't have 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week to dedicate toward the sales role, then you can't do it. Like I never understand when people think like, oh, like I'm going to do the sales. Like what job would you ever get where you don't do it like full time, right? Like the business, even though it's your business, it's still a business. It's the business. That business needs a salesperson. So if you're going to do that, great. But doing that means you're doing it. You're not kind of doing it. I have so many franchise owners. And by the way, anyone that's on this that doesn't know me, a little bit about my background, why listen to me about this subject matter. I got into business in my early years. My early 20s, I started a lead generation company in the franchise space. We grew to over 100 employees and contractors. That business had several millions in revenue and EBITDA. and was acquired by private equity in 2022. The business was running with me completely off the org chart. I was not even involved in the day to day. I've learned how to build systems and processes and people to build businesses where I'm not in the day to day and I can work on the business, not in the business, right? If you're in any of these roles, you're in the business, right? You want to work on the business. It doesn't mean you're not working. It means you're working on leadership, developing yourself, reading, right? Self-development, putting out content, doing podcasts, going to interview. Maybe you focus on recruiting. Maybe you're focusing on, the culture. There's a lot of things to do on the business when you're not in the business. It doesn't mean you're sitting around on a beach. Yes, you're going to have more freedom where you can take a day off on a Friday and you don't have to be in the day to day, but you're going to still be working just on your business, not in it. But anyway, so I built that, sold that to private equity, and then started what we're doing here at Franchise Playbook. We're a holding company. It's a platform for home service brands. We own Voda Cleaning and Restoration through that platform. I serve as the CEO of that company. We've taken that franchise from one location in Northern Virginia. We made the acquisition in February of 2023. We rebranded the company from the original name to Voda Cleaning and Restoration in March of 2023. Started franchising in April of 2023, and we're at over 100 locations around the country in multiple states ever since then. But that story is a good one. It didn't happen overnight. I've made a lot of mistakes in the past 10 years of being in franchising, done a lot of things wrong, and done a lot of trial and error. But what I can tell you is I run Voda now, not being in the day-to-day as well. And I use the same framework that I'm showing you here. How we grew to over 100 locations with franchise owners operating around the country is by deploying this model and then helping teach them how to deploy the same model. And I want to help you with that too. So head of sales, they're going to be the salesperson. I recommend if you have the capital, get a salesperson. Even if you're going to sell, get a salesperson with you. Nothing's better than the CEO and the sales guy high-fiving, going after it, going to meetings. There's that camaraderie to it. We do that at Voda. Our VP of development and me, we're close. We work together. We're in the trenches. People are going to respect you if you're involved, but that doesn't mean you do the job. At the end of the day, the head of sales should still be accountable to the sales. We'll get more into that. But the third bucket is going to be operations. Okay. That's going to be your general manager. That's going to be your operating partner or your operations manager. This is the person, some call it the integrator, right? The person who's going to integrate the business. This is the person that, makes sure that the trains are, showing up on time, right? They're getting to the right station, going to the right place at the right time. So they're going to be dealing with the HR. They're going to be dealing with employees. They're going to be people calling out. They're dealing with that. In home services, maybe in our business, we're dealing with the property managers and the referral sources. We're dealing with the payroll, the employees. We're dealing with dispatching trucks out there. We're dealing with problems. The first level of problems are going to be with the head of operations or the COO or operations manager, whatever title you want to call. But they're going to be in the business. They're going to be overseeing the whole business. You can technically put that head of ops maybe as the highest of the org chart, but you're going to have head of ops running the business. You should have an integrator pretty early in. If I was going to get into the painting business right now, I could absolutely succeed at it. And why I would be so confident is the first thing I would do is I would go out. I would find the number one painting business in my market, the number one painting company in the area. And then I would go find the number two guy, the COO there, the number two guy, not the owner, obviously, but the number two guy. And I would say, hey, come over here, partner with me. Let's build the best painting company in the world, but be my partner. The point of what I'm saying is Richard Branson came up with this. I love it. Someone asked Richard Branson, which by the way, Richard Branson's the billionaire billionaires want to be, right? He's not only a billionaire, he's got more time freedom than anyone. And I heard this story how Richard Branson had a bunch of people out to his home in Switzerland for skiing. And while everyone else is worried about working and everything else, Richard had one meeting in the morning with this executive assistant. They went through the entire day over breakfast. She came with him. The only work that followed him onto the mountain was her. He went skiing with 5 or 6 people, including her. And she was running all of Richard's day to day. Now, the way that he does that, someone said, how do you run 400 companies? He said, find the number two guy at the number one company and ask him to be your partner. So what I'm saying about this, if I want to get in the painting business right now, I'd find the number one painting guy, number two painting guy, number two meaning the integrator of that painting business. And if they didn't have a non-compete, et cetera, obviously ethically and morally done right, I would say, hey, come over here. Let me give you an opportunity to have, anywhere from 10 to 30% operating equity to run this business with me. right? Yeah, it could be less, it could be 5. For me, I'm going to go with more like, I'm going to go with more like, 30%, because to me, there's a great saying. I would rather, what would you rather have? Would you rather have, 100% of a grape or 80% of a watermelon, right? I'd obviously rather have 80% of a watermelon, much larger. I would argue that I'd rather have 70% of 10 watermelons, meaning I have 30% out to operating partners running the business day to day, right? So um, for me, operating partner can be anywhere from 10 to 30%. But anyway, I would take that painting business and I'd say, hey, you know, integrator of the painting business, come join me. Let's build something together. Let's partner together and let's build this. And I'm going to give you a lot of autonomy. You're going to run this thing. I don't want to be involved. I'm going to work on content and recruiting and marketing and vision and strategy and culture and values. There's so many things that I'm going to do that have to do with the on the business, and you're going to run the in the business. But that COO operations manager is one of your most important hires. Again, if you're a franchisee, you really should not have to be worried about the marketing. You should be just worried about the 2 buckets. You could take part of this, but again, if you want to own a business and keep a job, there's no way. It's very freaking hard for you to have a job, own a business, and sell. That's too much. You don't have the time. You really should be the owner and have a salesperson. But if you're going to sell, you're selling in tandem. You're selling it with. You're selling with the. You're selling with the. You're selling with the salesperson, but you're not the salesperson. Again, 2 people are accountable to something, no one's accountable to it. Then you're going to have your head of finance. Okay. Now, this often, as a small business, you can outsource this. I wish I could tell you something I did. I had a business for years. We were doing millions of dollars in revenue, and I was doing the bookkeeping. And I was working with the CPA doing the bookkeeping. Like, it was the stupidest thing. I dreaded it. I used to have to be up late at night. This is something that takes a regular bookkeeper probably 2 hours, and they enjoyed doing it. I hated it. I despised it. Yet I kept doing the books, and they were never even that good. One day we got smarter. We did an outsourced like controller for $1,500 a month, and then maybe it was $5,000 as we grew. That was the best money I ever spent. $5,000 a month. I can make that a week in revenue. Or I can make that a day in revenue. More than that, if I'm focused on what I'm good at. In my case, I can go out and sell. Right? There's no reason for me to do the finance, the bookkeeping, and nor should you. Now, again, good franchise like at Voda, not to plug Voda, but at Voda, we do the bookkeeping and financials and chart of accounts and everything for our franchise owners. But if not, you really want to have that person that's overseeing the money in, the money out, counting the beans. That could be an outsourced controller. As you grow, you're definitely going to want to have a controller, but that head of finance, money in, money out is important. Maybe it's a spouse. Maybe one of you if you're a husband-wife team, maybe someone's really good at understanding the money. Make them accountable to the money. Someone should be accountable to the money, separate from the person that's accountable, for example, to the revenue, right? One person's like growing. Like marketing and sales, they should be revenue focused, right? They're not worried about the bottom line, and they shouldn't be. That's not their job. Obviously, they shouldn't be selling at a deficit for the business, but they're there to bring in the revenue, right? And sales cures all. Ops and finance are going to be working to make sure to hold on to that money, right? As much as possible, right? Vanity, top line is vanity. Profit is sanity, right? You need to have profit, but you're going to have different people thinking about, and this is what creates a balanced company. You've got someone thinking about leads in, you got someone thinking about talking to leads and selling, you got someone thinking about in operations, running the business. You got somebody that's worried about the money in and out of the business. You got somebody on the legal side, which we're about to get into. This creates this dichotomy. This creates this checks and balances system for you to be able to run the business. It's funny. I was thinking about this the other night. Voda's grown to a size where I own so much of Voda, yet I can't just go make decisions anymore. We're a large company. We've gone from a startup to a mature, mid-sized company. And decisions that we make have a trickling effect across the organization. And so, I don't make any decision without an approval process. And there's things that I don't even get to make the decision. Yeah, I'm the CEO and the owner. It doesn't matter. And by the way, don't be a CEO if you're just going to pull don't have CMOs and C-suites and executives. You're just going to pull the strings anyway. That's not managing. That's not creating a cohesive leadership team. Great teams, by the way, are teams that can fight with each other. Right. I was at an IFA franchise event a couple of years ago, and Drew Brees was the panelist or speaker, keynote speaker at the event. And he said something about the best teams he ever played for were the teams that loved each other the most. Like they had that camaraderie. At our company, we call it to be caringly candid. We care about each other. Great teams have great relationships. They can be vulnerable with one another. They have real relationships, but they can fight. Not fight, but they can debate. Right. A great company. My company, we get into a room, we don't all agree. Marketing's got opinion, sales got opinion, operations got opinion, legal's got opinion. I have an opinion, and we duke it out till we figure out the best solution as an organization. The decision is made by the organization, which is this entity you're looking at right here. The decision is not made by one person, unless it's they have some veto power if it's related to the brand. Like for example, in our company, Christian runs the brand. He's going to make the final decision on brand, whereas sales is going to be Steve and ops Zach, etc. So this is where there is some hierarchy in the sense of whose department is there. And then finally, you got head of legal, right? So head of legal is it's going to be anything related to contracts. Now, I'm a big believer in I'm a big believer in I'm a big believer in legal being someone, again, accountable to legal, right? You want to have someone that is accountable to legal, someone that is, you know, um, overseeing contracts that are signed, etc. See, look, I got an example right now. I went live on this. I'm probably live on one of our channels. I'm not supposed to be. I click some button. I see my marketing team reaching out to me right now. This is the point, though. As an owner, I'm not thinking of all the different ingredients and brand, and I might be posting right now on our Voda non-franchise channel, which I think I'm doing. So sorry, we'll fix that. But the point of what I'm saying is, when you build an organization, you got really smart people that are thinking about all the different things you're not thinking about. I'll give you an example. As we've grown, I used to just go and post anything I wanted. Well, now we've got a much larger brand. I need to be cognizant of the message that I'm putting out on social media, and are we staying in brand and line? And so you got team people, focused on that, right? You need to build an org chart. You want to run a business that runs without you. You need to build an org chart that looks like this. So just to summarize, you've got head of marketing, head of sales, head of operations, head of money, and head of legal. Now, again, legal should be able to be outsourced. A good franchise should have a lot of legal contracts and agreements, employment agreements done for you. But here's a lesson. I'll explain something that I learned. We have a tremendous law firm that works with us. Our attorney has become someone I'm very close with, knows our business inside and out. But we had an example where we were sending out contracts, and over a time, a templated, employment agreement that we had was starting to, get changed on a case by case basis, right? Which makes sense, right? Different employees have different needs and whatever. But anyway, next thing you know, one of the employee agreements that we had put together on a special situation had become the template. Like that special one started going out with the uh, more lackadaisical restrictions in something, was going out to everybody. And you know why? Because one person was not accountable, right? All of a sudden, legal was not accountable. They gave us the agreements, but we were changing them, sending one out here, one out there. And what happened was chaos. And so what we learned from that, and what I really learned from that, was it all goes back to that basic principle of one person's accountable to something or no one's accountable. And what we realized was um, we really needed to have um, the attorney review every agreement out and in. So I won't sign anything now until that agreement has been looked at by our counsel. I don't care if it's our employment agreement. If it's been changed, it's not, no. It goes out externally from our law firm back to our law firm, signed by us, reviewed by the law firm. One person, the legal team, is accountable to it. That way we don't have this, mix up of an agreement went out and was wrong. And so, like I said, every single thing in your organization should have one person who's accountable to what they're doing. So again, just to summarize, you want to run a business that runs without you, you need a head of marketing, head of sales, head of ops, head of finance, and head of legal. Thanks for tuning in. I'll be putting out more content like this, and have a great morning. Oh, and call to actions. I'm supposed to do that. So if you're interested in owning your own business, in the home services space, go to www.myvodafranchise.com. If you're a franchise owner, thanks. InVoda, thanks for listening. I'll keep putting out content and education like this at scale. If you are, if you're on Instagram, my Instagram is just Dan Franchise. So just at Dan Franchise. I'll pop that here. And for Instagram, and if you are on LinkedIn, it's just Dan Claps. Just go to LinkedIn, Dan Claps. You'll see me on there. I put out lots of content. I've got a podcast called the I Fired My Boss podcast, which I'm going to put a link to that as well. That puts out a lot of content on owning your own business, which can be, we talk about, how to fire your boss and own your own business. But anyway, thanks again for everyone that's tuned in. Here's the content, and we'll see you soon.